Do you ever walk into a home and you're immediately drawn to the textural elements, the mix of feminine and masculine details, the prevalence, of contrast, pale wall colors, white oak and warm wood? This is the design trend you've been trying to put your finger on. Thanks for tuning in to the Realtor Moms Podcast. I'm Tasha.
And I'm Jamie. We're full-time realtors in the Fargo-Moorhead and surrounding areas, and admittedly average moms. This is how we sell homes.
And try to keep our kids alive. Hello, everyone.
Hey there.
Well, we are so excited today to talk about this. Jamie I should add, Jamie's has been talking about this design trend for a while now.
And which is precisely why we decided to use this as a topic, because
this is the design trend. Many people, some people know, some people don't, but many people don't have.
We're seeing it all over.
They don't know what to put. They don't know how to put a name on it.
Yes. So when I kept bringing it up to Tasha, she's like, I don't really know what you're talking about.
But I did know exactly what she was talking about. I just didn't know the name of it.
Didn't know that I was talking about something very specific, or that I think has a pretty, what I thought was a pretty obvious name. But I realized quickly that not everybody's calling it the same thing.
No, they
or
are
at
not.
least they're not referring it to it.
And
as
I
the
knew
same
exactly
thing.
what you were talking about. I just didn't know there was an actual name for it.
There is, yeah. So before we say the name, let's talk a little bit more about what it entails, like in brief, and then we'll get into the details. Okay. Like you sort of said it in the opening of this episode, like
mixing of feminine and masculine details.
Some like iron, like dark, really dark gray, almost black iron colors, but also these really light and beautiful white tones, and then warm woods, like whitewash, or not whitewash, but white oak, and even some darker woods that kind of complement but contrast at the same time. Cozy, not cluttered, just like a beautifully curated room that looks unfussy and totally like you could have kids and dogs and everything else in there.
Yeah, you can live your life.
So sum that up.
Yes. Yeah.
Into a word. What do we call that?
McGee aesthetic. That's what it's called.
Studio McGee, yes.
Studio McGee is the
McGee aesthetic.
The McGee aesthetic, but the Studio McGee is the designer or the design firm that came up with, really started this off.
Right. Who really kicked it off and made it super popular. And the gal, I believe it's a husband and wife team, they lend their name to this style because she renovated.
The name is Shay and Sid McGee.
Yes. They renovated a house, and just based on the fixtures, the furnishings, and the way that the selections they made for wall color and flooring choices just really took off.
Yes.
And we love it too.
We do.
And part of the reason why we want to talk about it is we're about to go into Parade of Homes, and we're seeing it on so many new construction
homes and how they're being designed, and the design
and furnished
elements
and
furnished. And we realize that not a lot of people know what this is called or how to put a name on it. And that's why we wanted to talk about it today.
And because we feel like farmhouse has had its time. Not to say that it's totally out or not.
It's not out, but this is
such a nice transition.
The best way to say it's like a contemporary version of farmhouse.
Yeah,
where if you dove in deep to the farmhouse aesthetic, you
don't have to throw everything away.
You don't have to throw everything away. You can mix and match and replace certain items to move into this new aesthetic.
So true.
Brings it into the now. Very excited when I realized
when we put a finger on it.
And I'm like, oh, this can be so easy. And you can also do this in stages.
Oh, for sure.
So easy, because one thing I want to bring up is before I even knew what it was called, I knew this was coming in when I bought my new bedroom furniture a couple of years ago.
With the help of a really good friend.
With the help of a very good friend.
She's got
her finger on the pulse of all of this.
We don't pretend to be designers, but we can play one on a podcast.
Exactly. But one thing that really is out is that you shouldn't do is matchy.
I knew that's what you were going to say.
Furniture sets, the couch and love seat that match, and I'm like,
and here's the thing too, because Tasha said this off air just a little bit ago. Like, I'm not going to throw away all my furniture just because it matches. No, of course not. Like, we would never want you to do that. I would never suggest that. Which is what's kind of cool about this aesthetic is you can maybe use some pieces in different rooms.
You can mix and match,
or maybe it's just different.
You can just bring in all the other aesthetic or all the the other furniture,
complementary
pieces to bring the aesthetic to life. And that's what's beautiful about this.
Yes.
So why don't we get into more of just talking about it and really get into the nitty gritty?
You bet. I think maybe would start with like the walls, and part of this is kind of talking about this from a remodeling your current home perspective, or of course preparing your house to sell and making it as attractive as you can to as many buyers as possible. Correct. But if you're in a house that has you feel like it needs a refresh and you've been just trying to figure out which direction to go, this is the episode for you. So getting back to it, walls, light colors. Not pure white necessarily.
Not pure white.
You wrote down some really great colors. I wrote down
some really great colors from different brands, like Benjamin Moore, Swiss Coffee, White Dove. But what's really important is to go, we have 75%. In our research,
we do research sometimes. And I've seen this several times in like Pinterest posts and on Instagram. The McGee way, I guess you could call it, is they've been mixing these colors at a 75% intensity. So if you go in and you go into the Benjamin Moore shop and say, I want this
Swiss coffee.
Yeah, I want Swiss coffee, but you're asking for it at a 75% intensity. They're just making it a little bit paler than what's going to be on that card stock, that little sample.
And Sherwin-Williams, some colors that I wrote down are alabaster,
also
white flower.
Popular with the Magnolia crew, Correct. Chip and Joanna Gaines.
Alabaster and white flower, again, at 75%.
Sure, so. Yeah. And also wall treatments. So a lot of what I think the McGee aesthetic is pulling in as well is a textural element.
Textural is very important.
Yeah, so we're seeing things like there's still some shiplap happening, but maybe more often in a vertical orientation.
Or sometimes you'll see it in different colors.
Sure.
And what I mean by colors is like browns, blondes, like the white oak, one thing to point out, and I said this to Jamie off air as well, is white oak can be very expensive. Yes. So sometimes you can find different colors that maybe aren't white oak, and I was very excited because I have natural maple, and I can still pull off this aesthetic with that in my home with the direction we're going without having to invest in white oak all over my property, all over my home. So.
Right, definitely. What we're seeing less of is the gray tones.
Yes,
so and I think we've mentioned that before in other podcasts too. But gray, you don't have to ditch it completely if you already have it. You can work around it.
But gray, I would say gray is minimal, only if it can be complemented by warmer elements and colors.
Right, and let's say you've got gray floors. Like you just invested in some beautiful
gray floors,
and gray toned, wood look flooring. Rugs.
And we're not saying you have to replace all of that.
No. By no means is that the case. But layering rugs has been another way to bring in a big textural element. They're even putting rugs on top of carpet. If you've got, not too high of a pile carpet. Everything from using a sisal rug like a vintage older style looking rug over the top to give some texture, some color, some pattern to the floor.
I have seen some of this. We see the sisal rugs with even like a white rug with some gray elements over top of it, and that's one way I've seen gray included, but it's mixed and matched with a lot of warmer colors. And just so people understand, because maybe not everyone knows what this is, can you explain sisal rugs?
Oh, well, I wasn't prepared for that. So, it's like a woven grass-like, sort of a coarser textured, I don't know if it's cloth or if it's a natural material, but
like
it's
a blonder, warmer
material. It's right. The best I can do to say is SISAL and Google it. But it's kind of like a grass cloth or sort of woven textured rug material.
Yeah, it almost looks like a grass, but it's like a blonde, not blonde, but like a warm
the color of
texture.
Your cereal.
Yeah.
Cheerios. But it is not the most comfortable underfoot, which
is why it's important to layer it.
Yeah, especially if you're going to have it like beside your bed or in your living room where somebody's going to maybe lay on their tummy and watch a movie or something. Not super comfortable. It's also really popular outside, and I think it's important to note that this design kind of theme is just as important on the outside as it is on the inside, or it's just as applicable. So housing exterior colors that are white with a lot of, maybe it's got a black roof and some natural wood beam elements or that kind of thing. And also, you had written down some information or some color names on some moody colors.
Moody colors. If you design this, if you look into this aesthetic, it's a lot of mixing and matching, a lot of contrast. So things such as inky blues, dark charcoals, and then, for color tones, like walls, like if you want to do some kind of a accent of some kind, or a different color island in an office, a different color shiplap, or not necessarily shiplap, I would say board and batten.
Yes.
Board and batten is very important in this type of aesthetic. But the other thing too would be, basically having them inky blues, like I said, dark charcoals, and then mostly brown and black mixed in together.
Sure. Another place for some where we've been seeing these applications of these darker colors is maybe on like a simple fireplace surround.
Yes.
So instead of having like a lot of really edgy stone or whatever. Not that stone is bad. I feel like I'm saying this wrong.
Because you can do stone, but then like a lighter, warmer colored mantle.
Right. Or maybe you're doing something with a board and batten and taking it all the way up to the ceiling instead of just around the hearth area. And it can be in one of those darker or moodier colors.
To add a touch of contrast.
Right.
With the whiter wall tones.
Right. I think part of what we're getting at too is it's the rules, I guess, are
you can do
varying.
They're varying, so you can really mix and match to what you're comfortable with. So if you did just put in those gray colored floors, you can add in other pieces to be within this aesthetic, because it's not one set rule. That's the beautiful part to this.
If you don't want to highlight your fireplace, don't put the moody colors around it. Maybe make it with a white, more plain looking sort of background so that it kind of blends into the walls, and use something else as your point of interest or your focal point in the room. It's an easy, what we felt like, because we were both talking about all the things we could do in our own house to kind of come to this sort of aesthetic. We feel like it's an easier transition than a lot of past trends have been,
because you have to, it's almost
starting
from scratch.
But that's not the case.
That's not the
kind
case.
of feel.
They can do this. You can do this. It's easy. I think the hardest part for me is I'm going to have to, just because I want to, or like I want to, I have to paint your whole house. I want to replace my own, my blinds. Sure. Because they're starting to break and I just need to replace them. And I need to paint my walls. That's the hardest thing and the most difficult thing I'm going to have to do is do some painting.
And with blinds, we're seeing everything from like a grass cloth type of Roman shade to a linen blind to your traditional, louvered blinds. Like, there's so many different ways that you can implement these sort of details.
The other thing I want to talk about, I'm jumping right in.
That's okay.
Other things is it's important to have touches of greenery. Plant life
that's
is
a really big
important.
One. When you look at the Studio McGee imagery and stuff, there's always a little something
of green, some plant.
Yeah,
and I do want to point out
a natural element.
I mean, I know that some people are all pro for this or say don't do this; it can look cheap.
Oh, sure.
I can't keep a plant alive to save my life, and so
those faux plants have really
good.
lifelike.
Yeah, I know, and I know that there's a lot of people may disagree with me, but literally, I cannot keep a plant alive. I'm sorry. I either overwater it, underwater it, or it doesn't get enough sunlight. I'm hopeless when it comes to plants, and I those faux plants from Target are my go-to. I'm just saying, they are.
Nice. Well, and that's a really great segue into things that are like you can do in a weekend, or things that you can bring into the house that can help you get closer to this kind of aesthetic that don't involve a hammer and nails or a paintbrush.
So let's say you just bought some new furniture. And let's say you have the matching couch and love seat.
Sure. Yeah.
Maybe you want to pick up one piece, and like what's really common is getting a camel colored couch or love seat and adding that in with a different aesthetic or textured couch.
Or even maybe you camel don't want to buy furniture.
Camel color is really, really popular, and camel colored furniture can be really popular in this aesthetic.
It's such a nice neutral brown.
It depends how far you want to go. So,
but maybe you want to use the furniture you have, and instead of those pillows that came with the sofas that are you put them on the perfect matching ones.
You mix the ones from downstairs with upstairs.
Right. Use one of those and get 3 new ones and make them all different but sort of cohesive. They have something in common where their neutral base color is similar, or they're really complementary of each other. Like, and another thing that we see in like all their posts are these really cool textural like throws and blankets.
Correct.
They're one color in most cases, but they have like a chunky knit or a tassel on the end or something really kind of fun that makes them stand out a little bit.
The other thing that I did see with this aesthetic as well is not just greens, but sometimes, like I said, those blues. Not like
earthy colors, greens, blues, browns, blacks, whites.
And I wouldn't say like bright blue. More of that inky blue, or kind of that not gray blue, but like the softer blue.
Sure, yeah.
That's one thing that is I've seen quite a bit of.
Right. Well, and I really like that if your base kind of plan is this whites and blacks and browns as kind of just, your big elemental pieces, furniture, coffee tables, that kind of thing. You can swap out colors for seasons. You can add whatever color floats your boat, for the summer, and get something entirely different, because you're not replacing entire rooms of furniture. You're just bringing in different accents or different throw pillows or different wall art and that kind of thing. And it still all works really well without incurring a bunch of costs when you want a little bit of a change.
Leather. One thing I was just, looking at too is like maybe a leather couch with a cloth chair.
Totally.
Mixing
I'm literally looking for that right now, for just the right cloth or, upholstered love seat to go next to my leather sofa.
Yep. Exactly.
To complete my room.
One thing that we see quite a bit of too is like maybe having a camel color bench at the end of your bed,
or any color,
any color, really. Just adding benches to the end of the bed if you have enough room in your bedroom.
Upholstered headboards in the bedroom. And like in kitchens, I'm seeing like more of a hand-hewn tile backsplash or countertop material that extends not only on the counter but also up the wall for the backsplash. Correct. So you've kind of got this same sort of simplified look that's going up the wall as well.
Again, I want to very much point out it depends how far you want to take it. That's the beautiful part. But one thing you can commonly see if you're searching for the McGee aesthetic online is you'll see quite a bit of homes with beams, whether they're white or natural or like warmer colors.
So just rip your roof off and put in some beams. No,
but that's kind of the beautiful part. And so
there are some ways to add beams to existing ceilings. They don't all have to be structural.
One thing that I found I was really excited about is to see round mirrors. There's quite a few round mirrors, and sometimes archways. And actually, I've seen them in gold. I've seen them in black.
I've seen them in white.
It's
okay to mix metals.
It's okay to mix metals, and you don't have to be stuck with getting rid of maybe some of that aesthetic you already have in your home.
Well, and let's say you just bought a brand new kitchen faucet that you love, but you're thinking about doing black handles and pulls on your cabinetry. Go for it.
Yes.
Do it. Maybe don't have 19 different metals, but 2 is certainly acceptable. 3 in a lot of cases seems to be fine too. Get on Pinterest or whatever it is. LTK is another one, an app that you can search for furnishings and just inspiration pictures. There's so many fabulous ideas on ways that you can implement this kind of new trend that's coming down the pipe into your own home.
And now, if you didn't know the name, now you have a name.
Now you know what to search for. Yes, Studio McGee, McGee aesthetic.
And Jamie and I are planning to do quite a bit of social media posts and articles and sharing I know that's more on my shoulders, and I'm happy to do it, but I already have all sorts of inspiration that I will be trying to put out on our social media pages. So if you don't follow
give you
them,
some ideas.
Please make sure to find us on social media.
And you had looked up an article too.
Oh, yes. Well, I do have an article that I am planning to share that I'm going to share from Home and Garden.
Because we're a little all over the place. We're sorry, but we really are excited about this aesthetic, and we feel
Better Home and Gardens. That's the name.
Yes. And how often are we in a house and someone comes in and they're like, listen, I'm not really looking to buy, but I just love this paint color. Will you tell me what color paint is on the wall?
Yes.
Well, get on our Facebook page to look at some of these posts that Tasha is putting up so that you can see kind of what we're talking about. It's going to give you some great inspiration and ideas, and everything from larger renovations that'll get you there to small, just sort of decor tips that'll help with this sort of new design trend.
Exactly. So
that we hope sticks around for a long time because it's beautiful.
So if any of you are interested in learning more, wanting to build to put this aesthetic in, to redo what you already have, want a different house to put it in, or just have questions, whatever it may be, feel free to reach out. We'd love to help you figure out how to bring this new aesthetic into your home, upcoming 100%. Home, built home, whatever it may be. Thanks for listening.
We'd love to hear from you. Thanks so much for listening. If you liked what you hear, you can check out our library of tons more episodes on RealtorMomsPodcast.com. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or just about anywhere you listen to podcasts. And please never hesitate to reach out. We would love to be your realtors. This podcast is produced by Realtor Moms Podcast, Jamie R. Swenson and Tasha Barrett, Park Company Realtors, 4170 41st Avenue South, Fargo, North Dakota.